Sport!
Friday at 7 p.m, your weekend sports on Talk Radio Europe with the Friday Sports Bar.
Thanks for choosing Talk Radio Europe and the Friday Night Sports Bar with me, Dom Aldworth. Coming up over the next hour, Andy Murray looks to make it through to the semi-finals of the World Tour Finals at the O2 Arena in London. He takes on Joe Wilfried Tsonga in just over an hour's time. The curtain comes down in the MotoGP season at Valencia this weekend, and it's a farewell to Casey Stoner. Rugby fans, it's autumn international time as the might of the Southern Hemisphere is in Europe to take on the home nations. England begin their campaign at Twickenham tomorrow against Fiji. All that and plenty more to come over your hour of sport. Joining me as usual in the studio, Stuart Joseph and Richard Tilsley. And of course, you out there on the airwaves. Stay tuned for the next hour.
Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Friday Night Sports Bar. A warm welcome to the two gentlemen that are joining me yet again in the studio. Stuart Joseph, Richard Tilsley. Guys, thanks for coming in.
Hi.
Hi, Dominic.
How you been this week? All good?
Yeah, excellent, yeah. It's a bit damp, the weather, but apart from that...
It has been a little bit wet, hasn't it? So what have you been up to then? Just sort of staying at home? Well, feeling sorry for yourself? Or?
Hardly, Dominic.
Really?
Not my style at all, mate.
No? Have you done... obviously, your punch bag's been in good working order this week?
Yeah, it's had a real battering this week. Taken quite a lot of aggression on various characters. In fact, I'm going to add Tom Cruise, I think.
You were saying this just before we came on air. Now, why do you want to put Tom Cruise on there?
All that Scientology guff. I mean, and he's such an annoying little twerp, isn't he?
So is that on the agenda then for this weekend? Get Tom Cruise on the punch bag and give him a good pasting, is it?
Yeah. Herman Van Rompuy isn't quite doing it for me at the moment.
No? Okay. Stu, how about you? Good week so far?
Yeah, no, a good week. Business has been busy, so I've been running around, getting soaked, as Richard said, but we're here, and it's brightened up this afternoon, and looking forward to a better week of weather next week.
Well, guys, we're going to kick the show off, as usual, with a bit of football. A look back at some of the fixtures that have been taking place in Europe and the respective leagues around Europe as well. But there's a little something we're going to bring up. You being a Spurs fan, Stu, and no, we're not going to begin by giving you a hard time over last week's result. But there's just a little story that you picked up on. I mean, again, it's the dark side of football, isn't it? All football being in the news for, yet again, all the wrong reasons. Just tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, being a Jewish guy who supported Tottenham all the years, it's coming up. People must have read about it, about the chant that goes on at Spurs. It's done it's done in a nice way. I mean, it's Spurs in a slang. Jewish people were known as Yids years ago, and I'm speaking as I feel. And the Spurs supporters come around they're a Jewish club from North London, not so much a Jewish club, but a lot of Jewish supporters, but only about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, no more than that, and you've got 36,000 every week. But the crowd, the Jewish and the non-Jewish guys, seem to take it together to chant the word Yiddo when the teams come to play. You know, when Spurs play.
Let's get this straight. The Spurs fans are actually chanting this particular chant.
Plus non-Jewish fans as well. You've got a whole mixture of fans.
Yid Army,
Yid Army, there's loads of things, but all in a nicety, you know, not in a nasty way.
But don't the Malaga British fans shout Giri Army?
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what someone told me.
Is that offensive?
Well,
see, the problem, Richard, is...
it'd be interesting to see if there's any Spanish people listening on that very point, and because there are some English people who are who also sort of are half Spanish, who I know, who say, yeah, it's highly offensive. And yet, if you speak to other Spanish people as a Giri and ask them, is Giri offensive? No.
Well, everyone's
so I'd really like to know the truth as to how offensive.
Well,
Giri
maybe
is.
somebody will rig in it and say what they think. All I know is that in the Jewish world, some people do find it offensive. Some Jewish people do find it offensive. They find it slang and they don't like it chanted at the ground. But what I think the main thing is, for me personally, everyone's got a different opinion. Because they're chanting at their own supporters, I don't find it offensive. If it went away to Chelsea or somewhere and that was coming from the Chelsea fans, I'd find it offensive. I don't know how you draw the line.
So why has the story made the news? Where is the problem?
The Society of Black Lawyers have called for Spurs fans who chant Yid Army to be prosecuted.
Right, the Society of Black Lawyers, are they Spurs fans? Are they?
But what about black comedians who regularly, in their sort of repartee,
Use the N-word.
use the N-word?
Where do you draw the line? It comes back to square one again. You know, do people find it offensive enough? The police have said they wouldn't take any action against it because they don't find it offensive because you're chanting your own team, not the opposing team.
But now, why has this the Black Lawyers Association? You said
Yes.
Why have they decided to stick their nose in to this particular story? I mean, are they Spurs fans? Are they related to the club? Are they unrelated to the club? What business is it of theirs to stick their nose into this?
They just find it offensive. It's as simple as that. They just think it's the wrong thing to do at the ground.
And they've got plenty of previous, Dominic. But I mean, if you take, for example, the Clattenburg case with Ramirez and Obi Mikel, that was brought by the Black Lawyers Association.
Okay. Oh, that was.
Yeah.
Was
so they're a fairly radical organisation who want to highlight various cases and, and bring the whole situation of racism in sport, to the forefront. And I suppose they're prepared to use whatever they can to do that. And when you see some of the problems that we've had, not so much in the British game, except with a few individuals, but certainly outside of the UK and in Eastern Europe, you can understand why it is at the forefront of their objectives.
You're a Spurs fan. You're Jewish. Do you have a problem with it?
I don't have a problem, but many people have. That's the problem. It's not just as my opinion. I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't mean that's right. The club yesterday, Spurs, released a statement saying they defended their fans' right to use the expression. It read, "Our guiding principle in respect of the Y word is based on the point of law, i.e., it is used with the deliberate intention to cause offence. This has been the basis of prosecutions of fans and teams the other day." What they're trying to say is, if it's their own team, if there's own supporters using the chant, they don't find it offensive, and this is coming from Tottenham. So I don't know where it goes from here. It's a case of whether the law takes action or... But last night at the ground, if they were singing last night at the Spurs game, we won't be told what to sing. You're going to have this happening because you're making a statement of something which really could have just kept going on its own accord, as it has done for many, many years.
So do you think something out of nothing's been made from this?
I personally do, but I still want to be 50-50 here. There are people, Jewish people, who do find it offensive, going back to many years and everything. And I don't want to go into history or one thing or another, but
sure.
you've got to look at it. That obviously there's two cases here. I don't know how people outside of Tottenham feel about it, because that's where it really matters, I would imagine. But if you go to Spurs, you hear this. You heard it last night on the commentary. That's just the way it is. It's happened for many, many years.
But really, it's just a reference to the prevailing language of Jewish people around the world up until the end of the 19th century, really.
Yes, I don't disagree.
We've
been called a lot worse names than that.
Spoke Yiddish, which is a combination, I think, of German and
correct
and Hebrew.
It goes back many, many years, and but it is a slang for a Jewish person, And I think people must realise that at Spurs, it's taken in a light content. It's not meant to be. To put over anything racial or nothing like that. They're supporting their own club, and that's their name.
And that's all we can hope, is that this doesn't get blown out of proportion like so many things in football does. Another negative story to begin the show. I'm sorry about that. Last week it was racism. Let's talk something a little bit more positive. Let's just have a little reflect on some of the... we've got a caller on the line. We're going to try and bring you in here. Just give us a second. The system is... There we go. We got you... And we've got you on the show. Good evening. You're on Talk Radio Europe Live in the Friday Night Sports Bar. Good evening.
Evening, gentlemen. Fox in Mallorca.
Sorry, your name again?
Fox.
Fox.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Fox?
I'm in Mallorca.
Welcome to the show this evening. What's your point?
Well, it's over this thing of, names. We don't call it Gilly here. You call it Diddy. The Mallorquins call you Diddy, which means you're not Mallorquin. Some of the Spaniards use it, and all I use back to them is Forastera, because that means they're not a national of year. Right? And if we're going to keep going down these roads, what happens about Taffy, the Welshman, or Jocker? We've got to stop using that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair point, Rich.
It's gone too far, hasn't it?
Well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? This is sport, and that's what it should be all about. Richard, would you like to make a comment on what Fox just said there?
Well, I mean, I don't think that necessarily that jock or a word like that is a pejorative word in the same way that yid can be used. I don't think, by pejorative, it's not an insult. You can't say, oh, he's a jock and it has any insult. Maybe I think in Ireland, I think some Irish people get very offended if you say, refer to them as a Mick, but not as a paddy, But I don't think jock is, or taffy. I mean, I'm Welsh myself, and I've been referred to as taffy many times.
Yeah, but if you go back in time, Yiddish was, the Yiddish people.
Well, no, it's a language. There was never a people. There was never the Yiddish people.
No, but I mean, when you go back in time of the English nation and other nations, they used to call them the Yiddish people because they didn't know any better.
Well, no, they spoke Yiddish, but as far as I'm aware, it was always people were always referred to as Jewish people who spoke Yiddish. I mean,
Yiddish was a form of language.
Yeah. Until Hebrew was developed at the end of the 19th century, or rediscovered, Yiddish was what was spoken by all the Jewish communities around the world.
Yeah, but this goes back years. It's not started now. If you think we can't call, not that people call them, but they had to take the gollywog off Robinson's jam, and you can't make gollywog dolls anymore.
Fox,
I don't think that was against people. It's just things that people did in those days.
Absolutely. No, Fox, it's Dom here again. Listen, we're going to have to say thank you very much for your call. I don't want everybody to lose focus of the fact that this is very much a sports show. The history that I'd like to talk about tonight is more recent, and it's been on the football pitches across Europe. But listen, many thanks for your call in Mallorca there, Fox. Have a great weekend, and thanks for tuning in.
Super Malaga.
Cheers.
And it was Super Malaga, wasn't it?
Well, it was Super Malaga. Champions League, we're going to touch in just a few minutes, Rich, if we may. We're going to cast our eye very briefly just over some of the European leagues. Massive Northern Derby in Turin on the weekend. Juventus was going for a 50th match unbeaten. 2010 in the league, March 2010 was the last time they actually lost a game. They lost again for the first time in 49 or 50 matches to Inter Milan, 3-1. Inter Milan are now only a point off Juventus. Top class performance. Inter Milan are in a high quality form at the moment. I think they've now won 7 straight matches in Serie A, Stu.
Well, they had to come. Get a defeat somewhere down the line. They've been playing so well. Everything was just waiting for it. I suppose to happen, but it's going to be. It's made the division a little bit more exciting as well, which is good. I mean, Juventus are a point ahead of Inter, and the two have gone clear of Napoli by 4 points. So it's going to make it exciting as far as that result's concerned. But I was a bit surprised. I thought with home advantage, they would have won that game. So I was quite surprised by the result.
Real Madrid and Barcelona remain 8 points apart. Barcelona still at the top of the table following a victory over Celta Vigo, 3-1. Real Madrid outdoing Real Zaragoza by 4-0, and a shock result there for Atletico Madrid in Valencia, 2-0 to lose their unbeaten run.
Yeah, they went down in Europe as well, so they've had a couple of defeats on the trot. But again, this happens. They've had a marvellous start to the season to be just behind Barcelona, and it's going to be interesting again how everything pans out. As for Malaga, we'll be speaking about Malaga briefly. It's such a shame on the weekend to have dropped 3 points at home, but they looked a very tired outfit, very, very tired on Saturday, and yet they came back on Wednesday with the most incredible win in the European, which I'm sure.
Well, he played quite a few reserves, didn't he, on Saturday?
Yeah, well, the problem is there's no strength in reserve. They did put a few youngsters in, but
so why the youngsters should have been tired? I mean,
well, did you read the article in the press this week? It said that the management of Malaga on the 31st of October promised to pay all the money up that they owed all the players, and it's been deferred for another month. Now, if someone told you that, I think it just maybe put you off your game. That's what I thought happened on Saturday. I thought the guys had thrown it all in, but they came back on Wednesday night with the most incredible. Tuesday night, the most incredible.
It's a very sad state of affairs, what is going on behind the scenes at Malaga Football Club. I mean, here are these players absolutely playing out of their skin and doing the club, and the whole of Andalusia is so proud, and at the very least they could expect is some sort of support from the owners of the club.
Completely agree with that.
I think it's disgraceful, I really do.
Well, I'm surprised that the Spanish organisation, who run the football, are standing by and watching what's happening. But maybe the players aren't making enough spectacle about it or making enough noises about it.
Well, and also, I mean, there are some other consortiums who are interested in buying the club. I mean, one of which is headed by Alexi Lalas and David Beckham.
How true is that?
Well, apparently they were looking. It was in the newspapers. Whether it
There are 2 or 3 consortiums that have inquired about the purchase of the club.
Yeah,
and rightly so. If you look at the form that Malaga have been in, knockout stage of the Champions League, of course they're going to attract some interest, aren't they?
The team's playing so well. They're playing better than last year. And they've got rid of a couple of players, Cazorla and Rondon, for some money. And they're playing some wonderful football. I thought on Wednesday night, the draw they had in Milan was just superb. Isco was outstanding. I mean, talk about having an asset. You've got someone there. I think he was offered for about 12 million to the European clubs in the close season. Nobody took up the offer. Now, I don't think you could buy him for 25 plus. You know, the guy's just brilliant. And sorry, Richard, the goal that he scored, I don't know if you saw it.
The pass was fantastic.
Inside the fullback. Absolutely, I mean, it was just fantastic. And that's after beating a couple of men as well. It was just wonderful.
He's like a young Xavi, isn't he? I mean,
he's got more pace than Xavi.
To me, I mean, he is the next Xavi for the Spanish team.
What is he, 20 years old? The guy's a young kid. He was absolutely tremendous.
Well, we might as well stay with Champions League, guys. Seems though we were talking about Malaga's performance. Potentially it was a bit of a banana skin for them. I know AC Milan have not had a good run of it so far this season, but AC did time it perfectly well on the weekend with a 5-1 victory in Serie A, their best performance of the season so far. So for Malaga to go there and get that point, which was all they needed for qualification to the next round at AC Milan, at the San Siro, the players could have been overawed. They weren't a top-class performance.
Terrific, absolutely terrific. I mean, we said last week that even if they lost, they at least had Anderlecht at the last game of the season to get their points, but they didn't need it. They've done it. They can now relax. They can put out they've got loads of matches coming up. They can put up a second squad, as you were saying, but the problem they've got is they haven't got a second 11. So the half the team at least, or 3/4, have got to keep playing because there's no reserves to put in there.
I'll tell you one player who I don't think has received the plaudits he should have done this season is Caballero, the goalkeeper.
Oh, was he tremendous the other night?
Absolutely. Some of those saves were absolutely world class.
And also, I think Demichelis at the middle of the defence. I mean, he's like a rock there. Tremendous player. He could hold his own in the Premier League easy. And we forget about Eddie Sue. He scored some great goals this year. The guy's electric. When he plays as an attacking fullback or attacking wing half, the guy's lethal. I don't like him playing defensively, but going forward, the guy's terrific.
Guys, a couple of weeks ago, I said spare a thought for Celtic when they were defeated by Barcelona. In the 94th minute, I think it was, Jordi Alba goal there, bearing their chances of walking away from a point. This week, I say spare a thought for Barcelona. Tremendous result for Celtic in midweek.
Absolutely tremendous. Celtic had so many stars. Everyone was a star. The goalkeeper was just incredible. Made 2, 3, 4 brilliant saves. I've never seen a team play with such gusto. I mean, for the whole game, they did not stop running. Samras up front was playing up there on his own. He was just incredible all over the park. But I thought, I don't know about you, Richard, the crowd, the noise and the atmosphere was just something to behold.
It was. I mean, you know, often players talk about a 12th man being sort of carried along on a tide of support, and I think that was very much the case.
Yes.
But you talk about the goalkeeper. He was excellent, and interestingly, he is English. And a lot of people have been saying that, well, you know, Joe Hart is a shoe-in for the next God knows how many years as England goalkeeper. I think this lad, 6'5".
Where's he from?
He's English.
Oh, where did he come from? How did Celtic snipe him?
I have absolutely no idea, but apparently he is eligible to play for England.
Well, I'll tell you, a brilliant goalkeeper. Absolutely superb. And if they can go on and beat Benfica in Portugal the next game, they qualify automatically for the knockout stages. That'd be incredible for Celtic.
Well, one would have thought that, judging by their performance in Barcelona and their win at Celtic Park, they will go there with a lot of confidence, won't they?
Yeah, but we said last time they had their last victory, they've got Kilmarnock at home. What a downfall, you know.
Yeah,
and they got beat 2-0. They've got St Johnstone this week. Let's see what happens with this game.
But you know, such as the lack of competition in the SPL, even if they take their foot off the gas for the first half of the season, you know, if they don't get into the Champions League, they know that, you know, they just go into second gear and they'll cruise it.
Yeah, no, they're going to qualify the Champions League, but I think it's a shame for the players to be so high after a game like that and then have to play another Scottish team. You know,
I don't think it means that much to them because they're in cruise control in the SPL.
Yes, no, I see where you're coming from.
You know, they've got another couple of gears to go up. I mean, you only have.
But how do you get that adrenaline going? How do you come down from a game like that? You're going out to play another game Saturday afternoon against a team far less than Barcelona. How do the players get to that stage? How do they get themselves geared up for that?
Well, they probably don't. And they probably think, well, we don't really need to.
That's the worst thing you can do, you know, from football. You've got to go out there and give 100% every time.
They probably think, well, even if we lose, I mean, you know, we've still got the rest of the season to catch up, and they will catch up.
No, probably right.
I mean, because they are literally light years ahead of any other Scottish team.
Yes.
Juventus coming into their match midweek had an unbelievably 9 consecutive draws in Europe. They managed to put that right with a 4-0 crushing victory over Nordsjælland. Good response following their loss to Inter Milan on the weekend. And Bayern Munich are continue to be in superb form this season, albeit that Lille have struggled this season. But a 6-1 victory there for Bayern Munich. They certainly are making a statement.
Point to prove after last season.
Yes, but they seem to be firing all cylinders, aren't they?
Yeah, I was reading an article. There's a real determination in the Bayern squad to right what they see were the wrongs of last season, where they lost 2 cup finals within a week, both of which they thought they should have won prior.
They look a decent squad this year.
Very good squad.
Manchester United are doing that at the moment. They've qualified for the next round, something they didn't manage to achieve last season. A 3-1 victory over Braga away from home. That was a good performance, wasn't it?
It was a good performance, but, come 10 minutes from the end, they were still losing 1-0, so to get 3 goals in the last 10 minutes, I think they were a little bit nervous, but in the end it was a quite comfortable victory, or so it seemed, but not at that time, watching the game. I thought the home team, Braga, I think they tired as the game went on, and when it got to 1 each, I think their heads dropped and 2 late goals.
Sorry, Rich, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the big difference with the United game is when Nani came off and he brought the young Rafael on as right back and moved Valencia to right wing. And up until that point, Man United had looked absolutely shapeless. Their formation had seemed all over the place.
Yeah, first half they were very poor.
And they had Nani as a kind of like a floating midfielder as well. And it was an absolute mess. And Braga, I mean,
they were poor.
We're very good we're good value for their money.
But were they good or United so bad? I didn't know whether that was the reason.
Braga were good and United were very poor. I mean, if you'd had a £5 bet on Braga at the end of the game, you'd have had to say, sorry, Rob, you've ended up owing me €5.
But let's face it as well, United have had a pretty easy group, haven't they? They haven't really been severely tested yet by any top-quality side, have they?
No, not really. Not really.
Let's turn
also, the other difference was Van Persie coming on as well. But some things that Ferguson was doing, I mean, he had, he was playing Hernandez on his own up front, and to my mind, I think he's a very good player, Hernandez. But I just don't think he's a big enough physical presence
to play up by himself,
to hold the ball up. And he had Welbeck playing sort of on the right hand side of a sort of a 1-2 sort of formation. And I thought, well, why not put Welbeck up front? He's a big lad, hold the ball up, bring everyone else in. And so tactically, it seemed a bit of a mess.
Are you criticising Fergie?
Well, he got it right in the end, though.
A win's a win. They got 12 points from 4 matches.
And he is the man. I mean, he is the greatest manager ever lived. Let's be honest.
You've got Galatasaray, Cluj and Braga in their league. They've got 12 points. The second team, Galatasaray, just got 4. It shows you how one-sided the group stage.
Yeah, but that is also the benefit of qualifying every year. And this is what Man City have found out. They had a pretty sort of appalling record in last year's Champions League. They just managed to get into the Europa League. So this year they're pretty low in the seed, so they get a tough group.
Let's talk about Manchester City's performance the other night, having to come from behind at home. Somebody mentioned to me, I think there was about 20,000 empty seats, which is unbelievable if you consider that it's a midweek Champions League clash.
Well, really? There was 20,000?
That's what somebody mentioned to me, yeah. Whether that's...
I didn't notice the empty seats, but it wouldn't surprise me that, given how poor Man City were...
That's terrible. They've got a very hard game this week, Manchester.
In 16 minutes, they were 2-0 down at home,
which is ridiculous. But they still got back in the game.
Well, it's not that ridiculous when you see how poorly they defended.
But whose fault is that? They've got a tremendous run of players. They employ
zonal marking, and yet at no stage did any of the defenders actually go and try and attack the ball. I mean. It was just woeful.
First 20 minutes,
absolutely woeful.
The first 20 minutes they didn't even play. I mean, Ajax were all over them.
I thought Ajax looked a very, very good team, and all that nonsense about City were unlucky. They should have got a penalty. No,
I don't think it was
a penalty. Balotelli had his shirt, and in regards to the offside, it was offside. You look at it; it was very tight, but it was offside.
What's going to happen? The money men at Manchester City, they can't stand back and watch what's going on.
And also, I mean, I've never held back as to my feelings for Roberto Mancini, but I think yet again it demonstrated that here is a manager who is not really in control of his club, of his players, or himself in the way he stormed onto the pitch.
They're not a happy family.
No, there's something not right in the way that he's managing those players, and I think that is coming across in some of their performances. I know they haven't lost in the league, but I mean, I think you'd struggle to find any City fan who's been impressed by them this season.
We're playing them on Saturday, you know that.
Well,
Is it a good time to play
I know it's going to be a cracking game.
It's a rather confident little smile you've got going on there.
I mean, you're at the Etihad. Which,
we're better away from home at the moment. Being away from home, it takes the pressure off from the home crowd. I think we go there with quite a bit of confidence. The only problem is, we're running around here, getting out of the subject. It's our midfield. We've got injuries, and we haven't got a midfield. And that's our problem.
We are going to talk about that at the end of the show. But
okay.
let's just stick with the Champions League agenda first and foremost. Chelsea overturning a loss to Shakhtar Donetsk, the Ukrainian champions, at Stamford Bridge during the course of the week. Bit of a ding-dong battle there. Moses to thank in the 90th minute for giving them the 3-2 winner. But good stuff there from Chelsea. They much needed win.
I thought that was a great game. Watched quite a bit of that. And, Oscar's goal in the 40th minute, I don't know if you saw it, where the goalkeeper cleared and he hit it in for about 40 yards. Just one touch and bang in the back of the net. Fabulous goal. I mean, the guy's a young kid. He's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And that's Chelsea. They've got some great individuals. And also, you've got a sub comes on and scores a goal in the 90th minute. And Moses is not really a sub. He's a great player. Tremendous player. He'd play for any other team in the Premier every week, I would imagine. But strength of squad, that's what it's all about. And give Chelsea credit. You know, they were a hard team, Shakhtar, and they did very well to get 3 points.
Arsenal were not very good 2 weeks ago against second place in the German league in the Bundesliga, Schalke. They were much better this week, but they conceded the initiative very late on. They should really have come away with 3 points there.
Well, 2 goals up in 26 minutes. You think they're going to hang on. I mean, it's very, very disappointing. But I think I speak to Arsenal fans, and they are disappointed. At the end of the game, they looked really, really tired. A really tired outfit. But they had 54% of the game, never controlled it. Schalke are a terrific team, not to be underestimated. But it's going to be tight. They've got 8 points, Arsenal 7. Olympiacos have got 7. Schalke 8, Arsenal 7, Olympiacos have got 6. It's going to be very tight, very tight. They've got Montpellier at home in the next game, and Arsenal need to win that. They really, really do.
We've spoken about Bayern Munich. We've just spoken about Schalke. Borussia Dortmund managed to come away from the Bernabeu with a point, 2 goals apiece against Real Madrid. German representation is looking pretty strong this year.
Well, the Germans are pretty strong. You know, just generally all their teams are pretty strong. I mean, we were talking about Bayern Munich. I mean, they're scoring goals at will, and all the teams we've seen. We've seen Borussia Dortmund go to Manchester City earlier this year. They were fantastic. You know, I mean, Manchester City have got to go there and they've got to win. I mean, I don't know how they're going to get 3 points when they play their return there.
Well, they've got to beat Real Madrid at home.
Well, that's the easy one compared to going to Dortmund, I feel. I think Dortmund away is going to be ever so. I mean, I think they're out already, City. I can't see them getting 6 points.
I can't see them getting back in that.
I really, really can't. I think, unfortunately, we've got another team out and they're going to drop into the Europa. If they're lucky, they may not even drop in the Europa. You know, unless they get enough points. If they finish bottom, they're out of all the European competitions.
Well, before we go to a commercial break, shall we just talk very briefly about what happened in the Europa League, Stu? I know that's the Mickey Mouse League that Spurs are part of still.
That's not a Mickey Mouse. It's the second major European competition.
But that team that you only managed to draw against last time, remember, Rich, the ones that get the whole team around the ball, Maribor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maribor.
Yeah.
From Latvia or wherever they're from.
Slovakia. They're one of the top teams there. Very good team.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
Listen,
you managed to get a result against them this time, didn't you?
Be kind on me. We've got to win. We won 3-1. Lazio has still got 8 points at the top. Spurs have got 6. If we can win our next game at Lazio, which is highly unlikely, but got to be hopeful. If we can get 3 points there, we'll be through to the next stage, and that's the main thing. It was a decent performance. They played quite well. We played 4-4-2 instead of 4-5-1, and I think the team looked more happier with their play and more balanced. Gal was absolutely tremendous, and Defoe got a hat-trick, so you can't ask more than that. I think everybody went home happy.
By the sounds of that, Spurs were the only team playing in Europe last night.
No, they're the top team playing in Europe last night. Liverpool went to ANZ and got beat 1-0, and they're in second place with 6 points in their league. They've got to beat Young Boys when they play them next time to really get themselves. You like that, Young Boys? You always make a
ridiculous.
noise.
Oh, I can't believe it. What a stupid name for a football
Young
club.
Boys burn. Anyway, they've got to beat them to stay in the competition.
Jimmy Savile like that.
Is he their manager?
Stop it, Richard. Newcastle went to Bruges and drew 2-2. They got Maritimo the next match, and if they can win that, they'll be through to the final stages. The Spanish teams, they were disappointing. Bilbao got beat 3-2 at home by Lyon, but Lyon are a top team this year. Academica beat Atletico Madrid 2-0. That was their second defeat in a few days. And FC20 drew with Levante. Levante went there and drew 0-0. Not such a bad result, but again, Levante need to win their last match against Helsingborg, and then they'll be through. So maybe if you look at the whole thing, it's not too bad if the Spanish teams can get some results in the next games.
Okay.
I was impressed with Newcastle.
I can't even bother watching the Europa League, to be perfectly honest. I think it's
Yeah.
Some of the best games in the Europa League. What's that mean?
what, according to you, because your team's in there.
Absolutely. I don't deny it.
I've got my rugby head on, and we're going to be talking a little bit about rugby when we come back the other side of these messages. Well, good evening and welcome back to this Friday Night Sports Bar with me, Dom Aldworth, Stuart Joseph and Richard Tilsley. We're just going to give you some other news that's been taking place around the world. Motorsport, unfortunately, MotoGP fans, this weekend the curtain comes down on the 2012 MotoGP season. We all know that Jorge Lorenzo 2 weeks ago at Phillip Island secured his second world championship, but it will be very much about Casey Stoner. The double world champion will be retiring following the race on the weekend at the tender age of 27. So a little bit young to be retiring. He still hasn't yet disclosed his full reasons as to why he's made this decision, but it's been a remarkable career for Casey Stoner. 38 wins in all. He'll be looking to make that 39. He has won in Valencia before on 2 occasions, but so has Danny Pedrosa. He's got 5 race wins to his name this season, and he has also won on 5 occasions as well. So it could very much be a bit of a procession this year and all about Casey Stoner. A fitting farewell to a great champion as well. And that's the MotoGP from Valencia this weekend. Great win last weekend for Kimi Raikkonen, getting back on the podium for the first time since 2009 in his Ferrari days, Rich.
What a great Grand Prix that was, and so pleased for Kimi Raikkonen, many people's favourite racing driver, purely because he is one of the coolest dudes in the paddock, without any doubt. And I just loved his post-race interview with David Coulthard. And David Coulthard was trying to sort of provoke him into some sort of massive emotional response. He kept saying, so how do you feel? Tell everyone about how you feel. And Kimi would just say, I feel good, feel good.
The Iceman, as they call him.
Yeah, but just a fantastic race, great circuit as well. Really
the most exciting race of the season so far, or at least one right up there.
Certainly one of them. I felt very sorry for Lewis Hamilton. Yet again, he's had another mechanical breakdown.
And he was in complete control throughout practice and qualifying.
Absolutely. He has had a really, really unlucky season, and I think that were it not for those instances of bad luck, he would be possibly leading the championship. But also congratulations to Sebastian Vettel.
What a drive! A bit of luck, but yeah. With the incident car having to come out on 2 occasions, it did buy him some time and play into his hands. But what an unbelievable drive from last place from the pits! Incredible.
Well, I was going to say congratulations to Sebastian Vettel for pouring a bottle of fizzy rose water over David Coulthard. But as you said, Dominic, great race and absolutely fantastic piece of driving.
Only 10 points now in the championship because Alonso secured second place ahead of Sebastian Vettel. The next stop now is in the US next weekend at Austin, Texas. Looking forward to very much. That's the penultimate race of the season. Then they move on to Brazil for the decider. Let's just certainly hope that the championship is still alive going into that final race. The World Tour Finals, I know you like a bit of tennis, Stu, taking place at the London at the O2 Arena. The top 8 players in the world are there. It's a round-robin section to begin with, and the top 2 in each group goes through to the semi-finals and then the finals. Just a quick check-in on some of those groups. Group A, Andy Murray beat Thomas Berdych. Djokovic beat Tsonga. Djokovic also beat Andy Murray in a cracking game of tennis the other night. Andy Murray will be kicking himself. He should have put that to bed. I don't know if you saw any of that match. No? No, silence.
I briefly felt a bit of narcolepsy there. Just mentioned tennis, off I go.
Well, it is the best rivalry in tennis in 2012. Djokovic has now edged at 4-3. He's qualified tonight, by the way, when he defeated Thomas Berdych in straight sets. Murray is up on court a little bit later on this evening against Joe Wilfried Tsonga in a must-win match if he wants to go through second in Group A. Group B, Roger Federer is qualified for the 11th consecutive year. He's going for his 6th tournament second win at the World Tour Finals. A tremendous record there from the great Swiss. He's already through in having beaten Tipsarevic in his opener and David Ferrer, both in straight sets. He's in action again tomorrow night against Juan Martín del Potro, the man that beat him in the 2009 US Open. If Del Potro can do that tomorrow, then he will qualify alongside Roger Federer. David Ferrer will be up against Janko Tipsarevic. A win there for him will also see him qualify as well. So getting down to the business end of the World Tour Finals at the O2 Arena. Good luck to Andy Murray this evening. Very briefly, a little bit of boxing news. Dr. Steelhammer, Vladimir Klitschko, puts his WBA, IBF, WBO and IBO heavyweight titles on the line tomorrow night in Hamburg when he faces undefeated Polish giant. This guy's about 2 meters 5, Mariusz Wach. Undefeated in 27 fights, so decent fighter. I think he's number 4 on the list of the WBA. So it could be a severe test for the Klitschko, but he hasn't lost since 2004, I think it is. 61 fights, 58 wins, 51 by knockout. It could very well be 52 tomorrow night. That's Vladimir Klitschko, the younger of the two Klitschko brothers, in action defending his heavyweight belts in Hamburg, Germany.
I think that could be an interesting fight.
Well, it's the first time in his career he's actually fought somebody that's bigger than him. And the guy's an absolute giant and a tremendous athlete. And, 27 fights and 27 wins is a pretty good record.
I don't think we're going to see much finesse in the ring, but there'll be a couple of real sluggers, that's for sure. I think it could be quite a brutal encounter.
And the thing that it's kicking in at a decent hour as well. All those big fights in Vegas are normally at 4, 5 in the morning or 3, 4 in the morning. So certainly something worth waiting up for. Almost directly after Ireland plays South Africa in the Autumn International Rugby. And that's our next topic of discussion, Rich. The best of the Southern Hemisphere. The likes of Argentina, Tonga and Fiji are also featuring as well. Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Autumn International Time, playing the Six Nations, the home nations, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, France, Italy also involved in this. It's going to be a pretty tough 4 weeks or so for the home nations, taking on the might of South Africa, Australia, New Zealand and so on.
Well, certainly. Because, as you say, they're playing against some of the best teams in the world. And certainly with New Zealand at the moment, they are at their imperious best, looking very, very strong. Australia coming back into their own as well, and of course South Africa always strong, and an Argentinian team who are improving every year.
Argentina, and they did very well in the recent Rugby Championship alongside the likes of Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. England's opening encounter tomorrow is against Fiji, a little warm-up for them ahead of Argentina, South Africa and then the world champions New Zealand. Stuart Lancaster has picked a very inexperienced squad, a very young squad. We'll just have a quick look at some of those. Alex Good, the Saracens fullback's been included. Then you've got Manu Tulagi and Bradley Barrett. That, for me, is a great strength in the centre of midfield there. Hugo Monier's back on the wing. Toby Flood, we've spoken about. He is not an international class fly half. Why he gets the nod ahead of Owen Farrell, I really do not know. Danny Kerr, we know, is very good around the scrum at number 9. Tom Palmer's back in as well. I'm a big Tom Palmer fan. I think that's a great move. Chris Robshaw, captain of Harlequins, again has had a very consistent season. And then your front row, Dan Cole, Tom Youngs and Joe Marler. Tom Johnson also featuring there, but good to have Tom Palmer back in the equation.
It's surprising, though. Andrew Sheridan is, I think, now playing for Toulon. And to my mind, he is one of the best prop forwards in the world, without any shadow of a doubt. And I'm just staggered that he's been overlooked, Dominic.
I think it's to do with their policy of not selecting players that are applying their trade outside of the Aviva Premiership.
But that is
ridiculous.
That is a ridiculous policy in itself, because the money in the French game far exceeds that of the English game, and of course it's going to attract the best players, and in much the same way as that all the money is in the Premier League in terms of football, and the prime reason it attracts some of the best players in the world. So, to suddenly start restricting the choice that the coach has, Lancaster has, by saying you can't choose players who are playing for French clubs, I think it's just England shooting themselves in the foot again.
But it's going to be a bit of a test for England tomorrow. They're going to need to get quite a few points on the board. They're going to be hoping so against the Fijian side, knowing what's coming up over the coming weeks. But two of the most improved sides in international rugby, Wales, Six Nations champions, they're hosting the Argentinians. Felipe Contepomi is back in the centre. He's a class player. I know it's probably a little bit the wrong side of his 35, I think he might be. Hernandez slots in at fullback. But Fernandez lobby at 8th man, who's been in fantastic form so far this season, and their front row. The Argentinians are going to be no pushover.
Well, traditionally they've always had a very, very strong pack, the Argentinians, and that's been supplemented by, as you say, I mean, some very talented players in the backs, especially Hernandez. Where they've always been, I think, at a slight disadvantage is that strength has not sort of pervaded itself throughout the whole of the back line, and as a result, it's always made them, I think, a little bit two-dimensional in their play.
I think certainly from a Welsh point of view, we're just going to quickly rush through this because we've got to get to the next commercial break before we bring Stu back in. Wales, plenty of quality in the back line there with George North, Lee Halfpenny, Jamie Roberts, one of the best centres in world rugby. Rhys Priestland, who's slotting in there at fly half, is very much in control of his game. I certainly expect Wales to come out on top in that one. South Africa in
new scrum half for Wales as well.
There's a new scrum half for Wales as well. I can't picture his name at the moment or get his name in my head, but that's going to be crucial to them, that half-back
I can't remember his name, but I remember reading an article about him in the last few days, and some people say that he could be a real talent for the future.
Only time will tell. Yeah. Islander in Dublin at the Aviva Stadium.
Driscoll.
Well, actually, the injury concerns are quite great. No Paul O'Connell, no Stephen Ferris, no Brian O'Driscoll, no Rob Carney at full back. I mean, those are some big names. They picked a very young and inexperienced pack, and I certainly just feel from a South African point of view and looking at certainly their type 5 that they picked, I think they might have too much for Ireland.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Ireland reproduce the heroics of a few years ago when I think they beat South Africa.
We won't mention that. We certainly won't be discussing
I think the Saffers, you'll be getting your revenge, Dom.
Well, let's hope so. Somebody who won't be getting any revenge whatsoever, that is Scotland, because unfortunately they have the task of taking on world champions All Blacks. One-way traffic there for me, no doubt about it. The All Blacks certainly got far too much class for a Scottish side that really just lack resources.
Well, I thought that if you look back at last year's Six Nations, I thought that if they could have beaten England in that opening game, and in fact they should have.
Doesn't say much about England, do they?
Well, England improved, but I think had Scotland got the result, they would have been able to build on that momentum. As it was, you could see that there are flashes within the team of the possibilities of a good unit coming together and playing some good rugby. But I'm not convinced by the coach. I don't know what your feelings are.
The Scottish coach?
Yeah.
Andy Robertson. I mean, for me, it really is a simple fact that they just don't have the resources and they just don't have the quality and the depth.
I mean, he didn't really do it for England, and so I can't see why he's going to...
I mean, who's ever really done it for Scotland, though? They just do not have the pool of players to pick from to take on the likes of Australia, South Africa, New Zealand.
I mean, there have been some very, very good Scottish coaches in the past, Dom, and there's been some very, very talented Scottish rugby football players. And I think that the problem is that, as you say, the pool of players that they can select from is quite small. However, one thing that the Celtic League has done is that it's raised the standard of the Scottish clubs, and you go, the evidence of that is in some of the Heineken Cup games.
Absolutely, Edinburgh performed particularly well last year in the Heineken Cup.
Absolutely,
but I still don't feel they've got any chance whatsoever this weekend against New Zealand. Australia in action against France this weekend. A new coach, Philippe Saint-Andre, definitely rebuilding a new French side. We must go to a commercial break. We'll see the other side of these.
It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Good evening and welcome back to the Friday Night Sports Bar. We almost missed our intro there. Guys, let's quickly have a brief look at Premiership fixtures this weekend. We were actually just talking about Andy Murray and saying that he can't seem to finish his opponents off in the commercial break, suddenly finished. But it's now time to talk Premiership football this weekend. Spurs are in action, but guys, what we'll do, we'll run through the fixture list. We've got about 5 minutes, and we'll just get your opinions on who you think is going to come out on top. Everton have had a pretty good season so far to date. They're at home to Sunderland at Goodison Park.
Well, Everton have had a good season. I reckon they're going to win this one. Their home advantage, I think, is good enough for them. Sunderland in 16th, Everton up to 4th. Be a full house there because they're playing so well, Everton. How they got beat how they drew at Fulham last week, I'll never know. They were absolutely superb. I mean, they played Fulham off the park for the second half, and Fulham got a late 90th minute equaliser, and they should have taken back 3 points. In fact, when interviewed Moyes at the end of the game, he did know how they didn't go back with the 3 points. So I take Everton to win that one comfortably.
Yeah, Everton are looking good, and it's surprising how Sunderland's season has really fallen off, because I think they won their first 3 or 4 games on the trot.
No, they drew. They were drawing.
They've had a lot of draws. Them and Stoke actually stick in my mind as two sides that have drawn a lot of matches so far this season.
They just can't get a win for love nor money at the moment, and I don't think they're going to get one this weekend. Everton are looking really good, and Fellaini, what a player he is turning out to be.
He's absolutely tremendous. By the way, they've drawn 6 matches out of 9 this year, so it shows you how some are getting their points together.
Well, Swansea will be buoyed by getting a point off Chelsea last weekend. They take that confidence to St Mary's, a side that's really struggling at the moment, Southampton.
I think Southampton have played better than the points they've got. Some of the games they've played, they haven't played well for 90 minutes. That's been their problem. But Swansea, on the other hand, are hitting a bit of form, and it'll be a hard team to beat. I think it'll be a decent game. I can see a draw there, actually.
Well, they are very good at St Mary's, Southampton. But, I mean, they've got a manager under threat. You look at them and they have certain defensive frailties. They look good in possession. It's when they don't have the ball, I think Southampton have got the problems.
I think they're in fits and starts. But Swansea last week against Chelsea were absolutely terrific. If they show that form...
Swansea, very, very good team. And, I mean, it just goes, to show the wisdom of the Martinez system that he implemented at Swansea.
Yes.
Stoke versus QPR, guys. You mentioned Sunderland had 6 draws so far this season. I'd be interested to know. I think Stoke are almost up there as well on that stat.
Well, Stoke are also a drawing team, aren't they? Again, in the last games they've played, they also got 6 draws, so very, very similar to Sunderland, as you say, quite rightly. I think that'd be an interesting game. I can see that being a draw as well. Richard, I don't know what you think.
Battle of two sides. Sorry, Rich, beg your pardon.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one, definitely.
Battle of 2 sides that could very well go down this year, Reading and Norwich.
I don't think Norwich will go down. I think Reading are looking certain to go down. But there's no way Norwich will go down.
Norwich are playing some good football at the moment. They played Spurs off the park at White Hart Lane. Don't say nothing, Richard. Don't have a go. But they played ever so well. Should have got 3 points when they came to Spurs. I see Norwich staying up. I really, really do. I see Reading struggling very much.
Wigan versus West Brom.
Well, Wigan are just one of those teams that you can really never predict. I mean, that magnificent performance against Spurs last week where they just played them off the park. And, I mean, anyone who had seen that game, you'd have thought that, Wigan were the team in the top half of the division and Spurs are in the bottom half. But
where they should really be. What's that?
Oh, I think we've got a pitch invasion, Dominic.
What on earth is this?
It's the Celtic FC supporters club.
I mean, have you ever heard this song before?
Not familiar. Is it the top 20?
I don't know, I'll tell you what, but it's really hurting my ears.
And when you hear 60,000 people singing it...
I must tell you all out there, he said that I'd be sacked if he wasn't allowed to play this on the Friday Night Sports Bar. I suppose it's a fitting tribute to a Celtic side that did exceptionally well against Barcelona during the week.
This is going to take us out.
Yeah, we might as well take this out. There's only Tottenham Hotspur to talk about. So what actually, Steve, where did you watch the game? You must have been delighted with it.
Absolutely unbelievable. What we're going to say, because hell, the Celts are here. Different class.
Guys, we might as well just leave this running. We've got about a minute left to go.
What I want to know is how Steve feels about the other name that his football team has been referred to.
Well, this one, guys, we'll leave it. Cheers, Steve. I suppose a fitting tribute to all you Celtic fans out there on such a tremendous result. A couple more steps and you'll be in the knockout stages. Stu, thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Rich?
Yeah, well done. And they were Lions. The Celtic team were absolutely fantastic.
All right. And to all of you out there, many thanks for tuning in. Have a great sporting event weekend. Enjoy your rugby. Enjoy the Premiership, MotoGP, whatever it is you're going to follow. Thanks for tuning in.
Sure, it's a grand old team to play for. Yes, it's a grand old team, bedad. When we read its history, it's enough to make your heart grow sad. God bless them. We don't care if we win, lose or draw. Darn the hair we care, because we only
Live international news from Sky.